Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into Boza. You brought us this amazing collection of sources, and they trace this one drink from, what, the ancient Central Asian steppes all the way to the Ottoman court. And the
Mhm.
story is just, it's wild.
It really is.
So our mission today, I think, is to figure out how this thick, sweet, and sour drink, which is basically just a probiotic, right? How did it become the center of this huge imperial controversy? We're talking about an outright ban from sultans like Murad IV.
Hmm.
And here's the paradox that gets me. The line between a healthy winter drink, something the army needed for energy, and an illegal, riot-starting beverage. So it's just a few hours of fermentation. That's it. That tiny window between food and crime is where this gets so interesting.
It's a perfect example of, well, you could call it kitchen science, because Boza wasn't some genius invention. All the sources point to centuries of what you might call common kitchen engineering.
Just people figuring it out over time.
Exactly. Mostly perfected by Central Asian Turkic communities who really mastered fermenting grains. And we're not talking recent history. I mean, archaeological finds in Mesopotamia show similar drinks made from wheat and millet from as far back as 8,000 BC.
8,000. So this has been with us almost since farming began.
Pretty much. It sustained people for millennia.
And a big part of that survival must be its adaptability. The recipe wasn't set in stone.
That's a great point. The name itself, Boza, probably comes from the Turkish word for millet, buza. But the recipe would change completely depending on what grains were around. In Turkey, you'd see millet, corn, bulgur. Then in the Balkans, it was more corn and wheat. Every little change affected the taste, the thickness, everything.
And what's the science behind that distinctive taste? That kind of sour kick it has.
That's all down to lactic acid fermentation. It's
Yeah.
basically a natural probiotic, for the winter. Just like yogurt, really. Those bacteria were great for digestion, especially in cold months when you didn't have a lot of fresh food.
So it wasn't just a treat. It was a tool for survival.
It was fuel. Simple as that. The sources show it had three really critical jobs. First, it was just packed with carbs. So for soldiers, for laborers in those brutal Ottoman winters, it was essential energy. Second, people saw it as medicinal. Old texts claim it helped the stomach, boosted your appetite, all of that. And third, it was just a massive part of street culture.
Which brings us right into the Ottoman period. This is where Boza really explodes onto the scene in a city like Istanbul. Those little shops, the Boza handler, they weren't just for drinks. They became these real social hubs.
Oh, completely.
We have the famous traveler Evliya Çelebi writing back in the 17th century. He says there were over 300 of these shops in Istanbul alone. 300. And he specifically praises the Albanian boza makers, the bozaka, as the best.
And you could hear it too. The sound of vendors yelling Boza in the streets, that became part of the city's soundscape.
But this is also where the drink starts to have, well, a bit of an identity crisis.
A huge one. And this is the split that really defines its future, legally speaking, because you ended up with two very different kinds of Boza.
Right. One was basically palace food, and the other was, let's call it riot fuel.
That's a perfect way to put it. On one hand, you had Tatlı Boza, the sweet version. It's much closer to what you'd find today. Low alcohol or none at all, often served with cinnamon. It was considered muntazam, orderly, regulated. This was the one the palace approved of.
And the other one?
Well, then you had the troublemaker, Araboza. This one was fermented for much, much longer. It had a really high alcohol content. Genuinely intoxicating. The sources call it sarhosh drunken making.
And it's just amazing that the only difference was time. Same
Yep.
ingredients, just a different clock.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating. The whole controversy was never about Boza itself.
Yeah.
It was about the alcohol level. The second it crossed that line, it went from being food to being a threat to public order.
And I bet it attracted a certain type of customer.
Oh, absolutely. The
Yeah.
sources are clear. This high-octane version was the drink of janissaries, porters, dock workers, anyone needing a serious energy boost, or frankly, anyone looking for a rowdy night out.
So you have these groups gathering, drinking the strong stuff. I can see where this is going.
And it got chaotic. We have the actual court records, the Sherry Sicily, and they're filled with legal complaints confirming that the neighborhoods with these Araboza handler had way more fighting, more stabbings, more public disturbances.
So this isn't just a story, it's documented.
It's documented. Evliya Çelebi saw it firsthand. He wrote that people drinking Araboza would wander around like drunks. He even said the shops operated Meyhane Yüzlü like a tavern, not a food stall.
Which, of course, is going to get the attention of the Sultan. This leads us right to Murad IV. He was famous for his crackdowns, wasn't he? Banning coffee, tobacco,
Yeah.
trying to restore public order.
He was ruthless about it. His goal was asayish, or public order, and he saw these gathering places as a threat to his control.
So why focus so hard on Boza? I mean, was it really causing more trouble than a coffee house?
In a way, yes. Because it was causing violent drunken disorder, it was a direct challenge to his authority on the streets. So when he issued his orders to close all gathering places, the high-alcohol Boza shops were specifically included because they were seen as taverns selling an intoxicating beverage.
But did he ban all of it?
Mm-hmm.
Or just the strong stuff? That seems like a key question.
It is the key question. And the answer, according to the historical record, is no, he did not ban all Boza.
How do we know that for sure?
Well, Evliya Shalabi says so. But even more importantly, the official price registers, the Nar Defterleri, back it up. They show that the ban was strictly on the intoxicating Boza. The sweet version, Tatla Boza, was generally considered halal, religiously permissible, and was left alone.
There are even folk tales about that, aren't there?
Yes. There's the story of the Bozaki Sheikh, a Boza maker who supposedly argued his case, saying his product was halal. And it suggests the sweet kind was always allowed. Then you have the legends of Murad himself going out in disguise to raid the illegal shops. That's all part of the drama.
That distinction regulating the process, not the product itself, is just fascinating. It highlights how much of a delicate craft this was. Real kitchen chemistry. I was struck by mastery tips in our sources. It's so much more than just a recipe.
The technical skill required was immense. For example, you have to wash the grain over and over just to get rid of any bitterness. You have to add water incredibly slowly to get that perfect, thick texture. And the timing. It's an orchestra, as one source puts it. A little too long and it becomes illegal. Too short and it's tasteless.
And what about that starter culture? That seems like the real secret.
That is the mark of a true master. Using a spoonful of the last batch to start the next one. It's how they ensured consistency, a rounded flavor. It's like passing down a biological fingerprint from one generation of makers to the next.
Biological fingerprint. I love that.
Oh.
And it's that combination of craft and the paper trail from Evliya Shalabi to court records that really proves how vital this drink was.
Absolutely. And thankfully for all of us, the bans didn't last forever. They eased up after Murad's death.
Right. And in the 18th century, the sweet version, the Tatla Boza, really became the standard. That's what led to the tradition we know today, with places like Vifa Bozasa, which opened in Istanbul way back in 1876.
A tradition that survived an imperial prohibition.
So we've gone from an ancient energy drink for nomads to a street food that literally caused riots and needed a sultan to intervene, all because of a few extra hours of microbes doing their work.
It's a perfect microcosm, isn't it? It shows you how culture, religion, and politics can collide over something as simple as a drink. The same ingredients can produce either a healthy food or a tool of rebellion, depending on how they're handled.
It's an incredible story.
So now you know the difference between the regulated sweet Boza and the powerful forbidden Boza. The next time you come across a fermented food, maybe it's kombucha or kefir or even Boza itself, just ask yourself, how close is this to tipping over from a healthy tonic into something that history might call trouble? That's something for you to mull over.